So last week I did a video on my top 10 favorite monsters. Let's try a different list today. There are a good number of monsters fans hate in the Monster Hunter franchise, whether they're annoying, frustrating, or even just have an unappealing design. But there are some monsters that most people hate that I really don't mind. I am ReaverJolt, and today, this is the top 10 monsters I like that everyone hates. Now before we get started, I want to be clear and say that the monsters that I list, I don't hate but also are not my favorite. I'm neutral to this list of monsters, so keep that in mind. I'm also very aware that many of you watching will hate these monsters, but I have a different opinion to these monsters than most people, so don't hate me because my opinion on these monsters differs from yours. So with that out of the way, let's get into the list. Number 10, SHAN Lung. Lao is a monster that I know people don't like. It mostly has to do with the fight being slow, tedious, and frustrating at times. Now, while I do agree that the fight can be tedious at times, I don't really think it's that frustrating. Lao is one of those monsters that's supposed to have an all-hands-on-deck feel to it, which I think it does a good job doing, especially towards the end of the fight. Also, it's so satisfying to hit him with that demolisher, and when I was fighting it with my older brother, this fight actually became fun and engaging, and when we successfully beat it, we were so hyped. Number 9, CONGOLALA. Now, CONGOLALA is an interesting case as to why people hate it. It's either because people think it's ugly, disgusting, and possibly annoying for some to fight. I honestly don't think CONGOLALA is that hate-worthy. For one, I think he's a hilarious joke of a monster, and I think that was the intent. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I fight CONGOLALA, I chuckle every time. I sometimes can't help but laugh when he flops his belly, toots, and does his CONGOLALA dance. Number 8, Cephadrome. Cephadrome is a monster that most people hate because it's related to a certain monster that I'll mention later. I think people hate Cephadrome because of that tail slap and paralysis attack from out of nowhere, and possibly that hip check too. But honestly, I don't think he's that hate-worthy. He can be annoying, sure, but he's such an easy monster that it's almost not worth complaining about. Plus, you can easily cheese it with sonic bombs. Number 7, RATHIAN. The female counterpart of the franchise mascot is widely regarded as one of the more annoying monsters. One of the reasons is that backflip attack. In older games, that backflip is hard to predict at times, and when most people get hit by it, they start to lose their cool and their patience. But I think that's really the only reason people hate RATHIAN. I mean, yes, there's the tackle spam, so there's that too. Now, I don't mind RATHIAN at all for the reason that RATHIAN is kind of easy. It's not hard to get some damage in with her fight mostly being on the ground, and while some of her moves are hard to predict for the average player, most of the time the average player takes her out no problem. Number 6, AZURE RATHALOS. Now, the reason I chose AZURE RATHALOS specifically is because for most people, it's more annoying than the normal Rathalos or even Silver Rathalos for that matter. And that's because it likes to stay in the air all the time and spam fireballs. This has made more people hate it than the other two. Now, I personally don't mind. While it can be annoying to deal with, he isn't that much harder than the normal one in my experience. He's slightly harder in Iceborne as the flashing doesn't really work like it used to, but I personally never found AZURE RATHALOS that annoying. Number 5, URAGAAN. Ah yes, the Crimson Chin. I think most people don't like it because of its ugly look and the rolling around that it does. And because of its somewhat tanky nature, it can become tedious to fight. Now, I personally don't mind URAGAAN at all. His fight, while tedious, is not hard, and his armor is pretty good if you can manage to cheese him early in both GU and Iceborne. That, and again, he's the Crimson Chin. He is a meme. Number 4, LUNASTRA. Ever since LUNASTRA came to Monster Hunter World, not many people expected it to be harder than Teostra. That's mostly due to the reason that back in Freedom Unite, LUNASTRA wasn't very hard compared to Teostra. She was sort of the Rathian to Teostra's Rathalos in a sense. But lo and behold, she's become one of the harder monsters to fight for most people, especially with her supernova. And as a result, she's gotten a lot of hate. Now, I don't hate LUNASTRA at all. I think she's quite cool. She's a good challenge for me, and while I did find myself struggling with her at first, later on she became easier with time. At least for me. In mastering, she is definitely harder, but I still don't have much issues with her fight. Number 3, KUSHALA de Aura. This is a monster that a lot of people tend to hate, mostly because of the tornadoes and the wind aura that knocks you back, especially if you don't have wind resist. Now, of course, like all the other monsters on this list, I don't hate KUSHALA. His wind, while annoying, can still be very much avoided by simply flashing KUSHALA out of the air or using dragon pods. In World especially, KUSHALA is made easier and can still be exploited even with the flash pod nerf. Number 2, Kirin. This unicorn-like Elder Dragon is hated by so many fans because of how fast it is, how it has a rather small hitbox, the amount of times you get stunned and paralyzed, and the thunder armor pretty much makes this monster a massive pain for most people. Now the reason I don't hate it is because I find that Kieran is best fought solo or with just 2 players, and in Iceborne, Kieran is made even easier with the tenderizer mechanic rendering the thunder armor useless. Plus, hit and run strategies for greatsword users and hammer users alike make Kieran easy to deal with. Plus, getting stun resist and paralysis resist makes the fight easier, and even without those skills, Kieran is not much of a problem for me. But I do understand why people hate this monster. I'll just always be neutral to it, of course. And in at the number 1 spot is a monster that everyone hates but I for one don't hate, and that's Plesioth. This monster is notorious for having a really weird hitbox, and add to that his large hip checks. Those are probably the reasons why Plesioth is hated so much, but I beg to differ. When I fought Plesioth, I never really had problems. You see, while Plesioth has these weird properties, it's very easy to get around. When I would play Freedom Unite, I would stand under Plesioth with any weapon I'd use at the time, and attack its legs until it trips and punish it for more damage. And while he's not as easy to cheese with the sonic bombs as Cephadrome is, they can still be used to force him out of the water, just not while he's firing his water beam. And to make things even better, his hitbox is easy to abuse with hunting styles in Generations Ultimate. What I like to do is use Adept style and Aerial style for this. And once again, I see why people hate him, but I don't hate Plesioth, and I have no shame in saying that. Thank you very much for watching. If you would like to see more like this, consider liking the video, and consider subscribing and turning on the bell to keep up with my content every week. Be kind to one another, and have a most wonderful day.